Hello, hello. This is your author, Rebecca Wells Phillips, Rachel Blue, and Boo Black, coming to you live from Asheville, North Carolina. And on Rebecca's Rodeo, where I talk about my life and journey as an indie author in Western North Carolina, I would like to start reading portions of my book, Hurricane Helene Resiliency After the Storm, Part 1. It's available on Amazon, Barnes& and Noble, also at my website, RebeccaWellsPhillips.com, and I also have copies available. But I wanted to give this opportunity for people who cannot afford to purchase my book. Paperback's $30, hardcover's $35. If you go on Amazon, it's about $10 more than that. But if you can't afford it, it's not fair that you don't know what I've written, especially since I wrote Hurricane Helene to educate others on these storms and to help people remember the victims that are still here and the ones that we lost. And there's a chapter on things you can do to prepare for your own storm. So I will be reading, I think, the very beginning in chapter 1, and then I will do another reading some other time. But please enjoy this reading. All right, let's put on the old lady glasses so I can actually see. Okay, and this is what the book looks like. This is the hardcover that is available. And if you wanted me to sell you a copy, I have paperback copies, but no hardcovers. I ran out of hardcovers. They were the first ones to disappear. Okay, all right. Inside the book, there is a section on definitions. It talks about what a Category 5 hurricane is, as far as a tropical cyclone with winds exceeding 155 miles per hour, thus leading to extensive damage and destruction of buildings. A tropical storm is a tropical cyclone with prolonged winds ranging between 39 and 73 miles per hour, with strong winds developing in tropical waters. A mudslide is a large mass of wet earth that moves down a slope, also called mud flows or debris flows. A type of landslide occurs when heavy amounts of precipitation saturate soil, rock, and debris. And then it goes on to talk about potable water. You'll hear that a lot. People usually don't even know what that means. Potable water is water that is safe to drink. It can be consumed directly or through food preparation. The content warnings of Hurricane Helene Resiliency After the Storm are as follows. Discussions of human and animal deaths, general listing of missing people, detailed timeline of events, in-depth interviews with victims, photographs of flooding and destruction, and self-harm event and mental health discussion. The table contents includes a dedication, a poem named Sounds by Anja Woody, a prologue. Chapter 1 is The Storm of All Storms. Chapter 2, An Ocean in the Mountains. Chapter 3, Unimaginable Flooding. Chapter 4, No Escape from the Storm. Chapter 5, Perilous Situation. Chapter 6, How Bad Is It? Chapter 7, The Aftermath. Then there is a portion that is called a firestorm, because we weren't expecting all those wildfires to hit us after Helene. Chapter 8, Towns and Waterways. Chapter 9, The Dark Side. Chapter 10, Long Road to Recovery. Chapter 11, Mental and Physical Health. Chapter 12, Local Heroes. Chapter 13, One Disaster from Homelessness. Chapter 14, Lessons and Future Preparations. Chapter 15, Victims Lost. Then there's author's note, acknowledgement, and author's additional works. The dedication. Following the horrendous events of Hurricane Helene, I plan to include a list of people and pets lost during the storm. However, my neighbors helped me to realize that 1, I shouldn't profit from the loss of another person. 2, doing so would require approval from families to publish victims' names. And 3, this book is more about what went wrong during a catastrophe and how we can be better prepared in the future. With that out of the way, I do want to extend my deepest apologies to the families and friends deeply affected by the loss of their loved ones, including pets and livestock. Additionally, people remain missing, and there are people whom we may never find. Sadly, people from the homeless community and the undocumented, due to their illegal status, may never be known. I again am so sorry for the loss of these individuals because their families may never even know what happened to them. I would also like to thank all the first responders, police, firefighters, security, civilians who risked their lives saving others. Many of them lost their lives, and we will never be able to thank them enough for their sacrifice. When the rest of us are running away, these individuals are running into the fire, not even considering the risk they take with their lives. Yes, many have chosen the service profession, but none are expected to perish, especially during a tropical storm in the mountains. Please join me in a moment of silence for these victims and their families. We will be stronger together, but we will also never forget our lost friends and neighbors. God bless us all. Sounds by Anja Woody. It's a pleasant fall evening here in the mountains. 21 days. 21 days since Helene changed our lives forever. I went for a walk in the neighborhood. I noticed the sounds of the crickets, dry leaves blowing across the pavement, dogs barking. These sounds have now mostly replaced other sounds that became commonplace after Helene. For days and days, there were sounds of helicopters traversing the sky multiple times a day from every direction for days and days. Helicopters, sirens, generators, sounds once rare, now constant. My thoughts with every siren I heard: what will they find? Will they save someone? Can they? Now, so many stories, videos, and photos of destruction everywhere. Helene has robbed us of our quaint small towns, robbed us of what we once knew, robbed us of our sense of security, our sense of community. Hurricanes don't happen here. Helene filled the rivers, streams, creeks, and culverts to more than anyone thought possible. She robbed people of their homes, their belongings, and their loved ones. Large chunks of pavement, trees, trailers, homes, and cars tossed around like toys. I was one of the lucky ones. I sit here in my home that now has power and water, although not drinkable. And I think how incredibly blessed and lucky I am. But at times, the grief is overwhelming. Prologue. Close your eyes and imagine yourself sitting in your mountain home, watching television while the pouring rain dances on the windows and pounds on your roof. In an abrupt sequence of events, your power flickers off and on in a rhythmic light show of flashes until it finally fails, throwing you into a pitch black abyss. As always prepared, you locate the flashlight with the new batteries in your kitchen drawer and turn it on. With the sudden quiet from the power outage, you easily hear the heavy rain as it smacks and pounds your roof and windows. For the first time since the rain became deafening, you steal a glance out of the large pane window. As your mouth goes agape, your brain computes the reality of what you're seeing. A growing foreign body of raging water, resembling a tsunami, engulfs your house and property. As you search the driveway, you search for the vehicle that has disappeared below the turbulent water. Refocusing your attention inside your home, you glance down at the heavy oak front door and are shocked by the water appearing inside your once safe abode. At this moment, horror grips you like someone choking the end of a water hose, and you know that your home has become your prison and possibly your future coffin. As sweat begins beading on your forehead, your sweaty armpits emit an unfamiliar stench that you identify as fear. Now is not the time to chastise your decision to stay inside your home. Everyone had assumed you would be safe in your brick house on the top of the hill. The river below had always remained within its banks, and no one could have foreseen how much water would overtake the area. Unfortunately, the preceding rainy days delivered a deluge of water before Helene's arrival. To your amazement, Hurricane Helene was becoming much more destructive than any news media had forecasted. Grabbing your cell phone to call for help, you are shocked to see that there is no signal and realize the phone is useless. Quickly, you walk into the kitchen to grab the cordless line, only to remember that you canceled the service a couple of years ago when you needed to cut costs. Regret is a dead horse, and you decide not to revisit your decision because no one has landlines anymore. Just last week, you had the same discussion with your neighbor and now wonder whether his house beside the river survived the floodwaters. Thankfully, he had decided to stay with relatives in Arden, North Carolina, and not risk anything. Returning to the living room, you shine your flashlight on the floor and glimpse a small pond spreading into the living space. Deciding to escape to higher ground, you grab your useless cell phone and run to the second floor. The master bedroom is at the end of the hall, so you hope you'll be safer there, but you can still hear the rushing water coming into your home. Slamming your bedroom door, your attention is grabbed by the sound of trees breaking in the distance. Pulling back the heavy curtains, you glance out the window and notice storm debris stacking up and hitting against the side of the house. Counting to 10 and breathing slowly, you try calming your nerves, but it doesn't help. Unable to do anything, you lie on your bed and pray for the water to recede or the rain to cease. As the hours pass, you keep looking at your phone, which only has 36% of its battery, and continue trying to make a call. Erroneously, you had believed a cell phone would always be reliable, no matter what the situation. When you purchased your phone, the service provider assured you that emergency or SOS calls would always work. However, during an actual emergency, you want to scream at the loss of signal icon. Now you notice the SOS letters on the screen, but you have no idea how to use the service. Excitedly, you finally remember that you can send SMS text to your family and friends and ask them for help. Unfortunately, when you attempt to text, you receive the error message failed. Frustration overtakes reality, and you realize you are completely alone, forced to figure out a way to save yourself. Leaving the false security and false safety of your bedroom, you investigate the water situation downstairs. Feeling a pang of anger, Feeling a pang of hunger, you consider wading through the water to grab a snack from the kitchen to eat, foolishly berating yourself for not considering it sooner. With your flashlight in hand, you slowly walk to the stairs, only expecting to see a little more water on the first floor. However, as you get closer, the deafening sound of gushing water takes you by surprise. Directing the beam of light down the hallway, you are horrified to see that the water is splashing against the top step of the second floor with branches, clothing, and other unknown debris. The odor of mud, gas, and chemicals emanates from the dark abyss. Abruptly, you turn around and sprint back to your prison, slamming the door and knowing there is no way out of this predicament. Lying down on your king-size bed, you cry softly and say your prayers that no one will hear. Following the days after Hurricane Helene ravaged the state of North Carolina, along with 6 other states, I was disheartened to read online comments such as, "Why didn't they leave? And how did they not know that the storm would be so bad?" Perhaps these questions are just a way for people to blame the victims for their disastrous outcomes, naively thinking that any amount of preparation would have saved them from the mudslides or flooding. Residing in the mountains of Tennessee and North Carolina, I'm confident that everyone's last concern was evacuating their homes. If there had never been a need for people living a considerable distance from the waterways to evacuate, why would anyone feel the need to leave? In this painfully realistic situation, I want you to ask yourself the following questions. What would you do if you were faced with the same scenario? As you read the story above, did you blame the homeowner for not evacuating, or were you empathetic to their imminent danger? Were you frozen in fear as you relived and envisioned the unsettling event? Imagine the same story, but replace the water with a mudslide that suddenly appeared without warning in the dark of night. Take away the flashlight. and consider how most people aren't prepared enough to have a working flashlight. Imagine people hearing the rushing water surrounding them and unable to see the danger without a light source. When living in the mountains, hurricanes don't concern anyone, and evacuating a home has never been necessary for individuals living far away from the waterways. As with what happened with Hurricane Katrina, many people in North Carolina lack the financial resources to escape a dire situation, even when given ample warning. Also, don't forget about the people who are sick, elderly, or disabled, who are barely hanging on to their livelihoods. In today's economy, people struggle to survive paycheck to paycheck, often lacking sufficient funds for necessities such as food, housing, and utility bills. Who can afford to pack up their belongings and escape to safety when it's never been necessary? Believe it or not, many commuters rely on bus transportation to get to their jobs, and during a hurricane, these services are often halted for the safety of both drivers and passengers. And without phone service, calling an Uber is out of the question. Chapter 1: Storm of All Storms. Hurricane Helene is ranked in the top 10 deadliest hurricanes. Some events happen only once in a lifetime, if you're lucky. But some people now fear that this is only the beginning of the destruction we will experience from future storms due to climate change or global warming. Hurricane Helene swept into North Carolina as a powerful tropical storm that first materialized in the region on Friday, September 27, 2024. It looked as if an atomic bomb had been dropped. Helene caused western North Carolina to suffer the loss of lives and property, thus destroying the idea that living in the Appalachian Mountains was a haven of safety. 10 days after the storm arrived, USA Today reported that Hurricane Helene is now ranked in the top 10 deadliest hurricanes. Various media platforms strongly urge the community to take the warning seriously by purchasing bottled water, filling bathtubs and sinks with water, restocking batteries and non-perishables, and fully charging cell phones. Whether everyone followed those suggestions is doubtful, but just as in snowstorms, the bread and milk disappeared quickly from the grocery store shelves. However, unlike the COVID-19 pandemic, toilet tissue aisles remained intact. Thank you for small miracles. From what I've been able to ascertain, most people did not take the storm warning seriously because western North Carolina is too far inland to be affected by a hurricane. Everyone believes hurricanes only affect coastal regions, and tropical storms have only caused minor flooding in the past. Because of this belief, the public was wholly unprepared for the cataclysmic storm that brought us to our knees. On Thursday, September 26, 2024, Hurricane Helene arrived in Florida's Big Bend area as a Category 4 hurricane. With its arrival, 800 miles of land experienced disastrous flooding and strong winds, resulting in countless power outages across the state. Western North Carolinians felt secure and protected by the surrounding mountains, which had always sheltered them from the worst storms and tornadoes. Sadly, no one could have predicted what was coming our way. Big Bend, Florida was 652 miles from Asheville, North Carolina, and western North Carolina continued life as usual. Although heavy rains were forecasted for the Asheville area, communities were only concerned about the worrisome areas, as community leaders and first responders alerted them to the possibility of flash floods and potential evacuations. Natives of Asheville reminisced about the last significant flood, which claimed 80 lives in July of 1916. On July 5th, 1916, a Category 3 hurricane called the Gulf Coast Hurricane visited Alabama. When it arrived in the Appalachian Mountains, heavy rain persisted for days. As if that wasn't bad enough, the Category 2 Charleston hurricane slammed into Charleston, South Carolina, thus resulting in additional heavy rainfall and complete saturation in western North Carolina. The Great Flood recorded flooding levels at 24.67 feet, but Hurricane Helene obliterated that long-standing record. No monetary amount or prayer could have prepared Western North Carolina for what Hurricane Helene unleashed on them. Rain totals throughout North Carolina range from 14 inches along Blue Ridge Mountains, 31 inches in Yancey County, and 24 inches in Mitchell County. AccuWeather reported the original estimates of storm damage were 50 billion, but have been updated to more than 225 billion. The communities closest to the rivers were the first to lose power. However, further away, communities lost their internet connections, thus causing a common lifeline to valuable information, family, friends, and coworkers to disappear. Their inability to communicate with the outside world led to inaccurate reports of missing people, but this was the least of our worries following this storm. Close your eyes and reminisce about when you were a child and your family had a landline in your home. Do you ever recall a situation where your family lost the ability to make a phone call? Those were the good old days because no one was addicted to their phones and life continued. If you couldn't call your best friend, you would hop on your bike and ride down the street to their house. Or your mom reassured you that you could try to reach them later. In the worst case, you had to wait until school the next day to tell your best friend whatever it was you deemed so urgent the day prior. Now, with the luxury of cell phones, we expect to be able to reach anyone at any time, regardless of the weather or situation. Following Hurricane Helene, the lack of communication presented many challenges for the affected counties in western North Carolina. The fear of trying to contact a loved one, a friend, or another human being was indescribable. Your only option was to listen to the local news, returning to your vehicle occasionally for updates. They tell you that roads are washing away, or the flood level of this waterway is higher than ever before, and houses are washing away. Your mom lives next to that river, and you've been unable to reach her. Can you put into words what you're feeling at this very moment? Interview with Diane Haney of Candler, North Carolina. What were you doing the day of the storm? I was hanging out at home with my two dogs, Smokey and Chaos, and trying to keep Smokey calm because he's scared of storms. And I was worried about my girlfriend because I couldn't get a hold of her. Didn't have any cell service or power. I tried to leave and go see her, but there was no way out. Every way I turned, it was either flooded or trees down. Did you ever make it out of your area? Nope. I tried driving my old truck and then went back home and got my motorcycle, and it was about out of gas, and I still couldn't get around the trees, down power lines, or flooding. Well, how prepared were you for the storm? I wasn't prepared because I just figured we'd have a lot of rain. We've got a couple of ponds in our neighborhood, and I was shocked to see them flooding, but we'd had rain for 2 or 3 days before Helene. What scared you the most of this? What scared you the most about the storm? Not being able to get in touch with my girlfriend to make sure she was okay. A day or two after the storm, I had a friend who tried to help people, but the police weren't allowing them into the areas. He told me about seeing bodies in trees, and I just can't get that picture out of my mind. What lessons did you learn, or what do you want other people to know? First, I will make sure that I have a full tank of gas in all my vehicles because we couldn't find gas for days after the storm. Second, I bought a generator because we were without power for so long. I'm thankful I live in a camper and cook on a grill most nights. And third, I'll make sure to have plenty of dog food on hand because that was hard to find too. I need everyone to know that a hurricane is no joke. It doesn't matter where you live. It can destroy everything. I don't care if you want to call it Hurricane Helene or Tropical Storm Helene. It's all the same. As far as I'm concerned, I will always call it Hurricane Hell because I've never seen anything like it in my lifetime. And I pray I never see anything like it again. Interview with John Doe, Anonymous, Shenandoah, North Carolina. Tell me about your Hurricane Helene experience. September 27th, 2024 was the worst day due to Hurricane Helene. I'm from Shenandoah, North Carolina. We didn't think of preparing because of the past hurricanes that only caused some flooding, but nothing like this. Flooding in Swannanoa was never this bad. No one was prepared for this type of flooding. Did you lose anything in the storm? I only lost personally, the only thing I lost personally was what was in my freezer and refrigerator. Residents closer to the river lost almost everything they had. Some people didn't lose as much as others. Houses were gone and many lives were lost. The flood was estimated to be around 30 feet above the Beacon Ridge. Some businesses were gone. No matter how you think the next flood will be, it's best to be prepared even if it doesn't happen. Can you think of anything positive that came out of the storm? The only positive thing I can think of is how the community rallied together to help out where it was needed. Do you plan to stay here? Personally, I will stay in Swannanoa because I have lived here so long. I knew a lot of people who passed away from the storm. Their water was so high that the only thing you could see was rooftops. Were you able to help anyone during the storm or after the storm? I live on Old Highway 70 side of Swannanoa River. I personally went down that way to see if there was any way I could help. When I got as far as I could go, it was devastating to see. Cars, utility trailers, 20 and 40-foot containers were going down the river, which had completely covered the roads. As far as I could see, there was nothing but water. No power, no drinkable water, no cell service for days to come. People on Old Highway 70 side of the river had no way to get out, and no one could get in until Saturday the 28th, and that was only by UTVs, utility task vehicles, or boats. The next few pages are pictures. There are pictures throughout the book. And if you want to see those pictures, please purchase Hurricane Helene Resiliency After the Storm Part 1, which is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, RebeccaWellsPhillips.com, and some local places in Asheville area, such as Carolina Mountain Pharmacy, Country Casuals, Noir Collective, Firestorm Books, Malaprops bookstore. And so going forward, again, I will try to read a little bit of the book, but that was the beginning, and we'll start on chapter 2 the next time I join you. So thank you for your time today. I appreciate you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.